Good morning, good-looking people, and you're good-looking because you're always looking, and of course, you are finding the good in everybody and in everything. Hope you're having a great weekend, a nice, relaxing weekend. Today, we're going to be doing the Hayom Yom for yesterday on Shabbos, which was Yud Beis Kislev. First of all, it was my daughter Nava's birthday, so wishing her good health, happiness, and all the blessings in her life for her birthday. Now, for the Hayom Yom today, there are two parts to it. The first part is informative, which is talking about different halachas regarding a bar mitzvah boy. And the second part is talking about forms of lashon hara and talking about other people. It is a very important Hayom Yom. What I'm going to try to do is give you a little bit of information up front, then read the Hayom Yom, then connect it to the Parsha, and then we'll go to a final comment. But what's important today is, when we start first, let's talk about the bar mitzvah. The halacha that is being said and talked about today in the Hayom Yom is about when a father has his son at the age of 13, one of the things that he's supposed to do is on his 13th birthday is say a bracha, which is called Baruch Shepatrani, which is basically exempting himself from this boy, that now this boy is on his own, he is responsible for himself, and the father, I don't know if he's scot-free, but now he's not as obligated and responsible for his actions. So the first part of the Hayom Yom was talking about that this bracha could be said on any day that the Torah is taken out, whether it's Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, even on a Rosh Chodesh, and the Chiddush and the important note that's being brought out today, that it can be made on a Monday, a Thursday, or on a Rosh Chodesh, or a day of Torah reading. And the reason is because it is an Eis Ratzon. It's a very special moment, and that we don't want to delay this moment. So the Rebbe talks about it, and our tradition, again, when the Rebbe brings up our tradition, it's because other people may do something else, is that the Chabad tradition is we do that on those days or any day that's available. And number two, we don't make a bracha when we make this blessing. So we just do it without Hashem's name. And just another important note that comes out here is that if a bar mitzvah boy his bar mitzvah actually falls out on a Friday or a Shabbos, his first aliyah will not be at the Shacharis on Shabbos, it will be at the Mincha reading on Shabbos afternoon. Now, the second part of the Hayom Yom is talking about hearing information, God forbid, about somebody else. Whether it's true or not, we'll talk about it. But ideally that it should bother somebody to their core, that they have to hear something negative about somebody else. So we're talking about today about gossip, we're talking about slander, we're talking about hearing negative news, truthful or not, and we'll address that, and how it connects to the Parsha, and then we'll go to a story and the comment. So let's read the Hayom Yom inside, and then we'll take it from there. So again, for the 12th of Kislev, the blessing of Baruch Shepatrani should be recited without mentioning God's name of kingship. It is customary recited on Monday, Thursday, Rosh Chodesh, and not only on Shabbos. So we talked about that. Second part. We have received the following tradition from the Baal Shem Tov. If one hears an unfavorable report about another Jew, even a stranger, one should be deeply distressed, for either two of the undesirable factors are true. A, if the unfavorable report is true, that is truly undesirable. So whatever information is being given, if it's truthful and it's negative, that should bother you that you're even hearing this negative news, regardless whether you know the person or not. The second one, and if it's untrue, the person conveying it is in an undesirable situation. So if, God forbid, let's say the information is not true, right? Then the person giving the information has an issue. They have a problem. And it's very important today what we're talking about, and trying to keep it also positive, but this is important, that we have to be sensitive to the people around us. We have to be sensitive in how we're using our time and what we're listening to. As we always say, we're looking for the positive. We're looking for the positive in anything. So when you're sitting and all of a sudden somebody decides to share something with you, no matter how juicy that gossip is, it's not beneficial to anybody. It's not beneficial to you because you don't need to hear it. It's not beneficial to the person it's being talked about. And God forbid if it's not true, even the person who's sharing with it, this guy's got issues as well. We're tying it to the Parsha because in this week's Parsha, first of all, there are two different things happening. Tying the bar mitzvah information to the Parsha is because Shimon and Levi in this week's Parsha, we're talking about how the negative that happened to Dinah from Shechem, and Shimon and Levi put their swords on themselves and they went out and they wiped out the whole city. And it says that Shimon and Levi were 13 years old when they did this. So being that this is being talked about in the Parsha, also, and they were the age of 13, that's why we talk about Baruch Shepatrani of the age of 13. Now, there's another part to the Shimon and Levi story is that when in the Parsha, there were two things that Yaakov heard that were very negative. A, when he heard that Shimon and Levi, they went out and they put their swords on and they wiped out the city, this brought him pain in hearing this negative report. And the other negative report was when Reuven took the initiative to move the bed of his father from the tent into Leah's tent, this was also a negative. Now, there's a story that it talks about Reb Nechunya ben Hakana was sitting with his students, and his students asked him, what do you attribute your long life to? What is it that gives you the long life? And he said, and I'm going to read it, he says, never did I seek to exalt myself by putting somebody else down. What an amazing thought. What an amazing saying. In order to make himself great, he never put somebody else down. We have to be so careful that even when we're making comments that to make ourselves feel good, to put somebody else down, it's a terrible thing. It's horrible. So to make us feel good, we have to knock somebody. It's something that we have to be very cautious about. We have to look to give people positive reinforcement, give them positive energy, look for good. I can say something about myself without having to knock somebody else. And in the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch, it's also very specific that when we're making God forbid, if somebody's making a negative comment, it's not only gossip and slander, taking a dig or a shot at somebody, even though you might think it's funny and it's done in a very negative way, it's just as negative. It's just as bad. So we have to be careful. Having good self-esteem means that we shouldn't have to do this, or somebody shouldn't have to do this. Good self-esteem means that we're also not even looking at the faults of others because we're so in a good place, we don't even have to see the negative. And God forbid we see a negative in somebody else, the other side of us should come out that, hey, I feel bad for that guy. I really need to activate my compassion. I need to see what I can do to help that person. That when we see a negative, it's something for whatever reason we're seeing it. That's a different issue. But now that we're seeing it, we should be so healthy and have our self-esteem that we should be looking to help that person, to step up, be compassionate, show them. And that's really the message of today. We got to be careful in what we're hearing. If something's negative, as we have these two parts of our ears, let's close our ears. We don't need to hear it. And number two, if it's positive, if it's negative, even if it's true or not true, let's not be involved in it. And if we are hearing something, let's stay above it. Let's move on. Let's change the topic. It's so easy to switch a conversation. And three, if God forbid we do see this, let's also be careful not to take shots at people, especially when people are vulnerable. It's not a good thing. Let's look to pick people up. Let's look to make them feel good about themselves. And that's something that we all can do. Yes, it takes a lot of work. And yes, there's a lot in today's Hayom Yom. But we're all capable, and that's what we learn from Yud Beis Kislev. This is what we learn from the Parsha. This is what we're learning from Yaakov, and this is what we're learning about being compassionate to others. Have a wonderful day. Have a great week. Have a great week of self-esteem and compassion in picking up the people around you.